And it's politics for once. It's just, have an actual headache. Um, so Christine, so for everybody who doesn't know, Christine, who is follows me on locals and is here all the time, Christine came down before Christmas. She bought a bunch of books and asked me to sign them. So after I did the episode of Not on Record, we talked for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, signed some books, hung out together. And she was explaining to me how difficult it was for her to get a job because of mandates and vaccine requirements and all that sort of stuff. And Christine sends me a private message yesterday to say, "You're not going to believe it. Everything's working out. I got a job." So I think we should all, collectively congratulate Christine and to a brighter future and for good things that are coming down the pipeline. I told you life's going to get better. I promised it will, and it's going to. So I'm very, very happy for you, and I'm sure as is everybody else. So if I look like I have a mop on my head, a little bit derelict, yeah, I need a haircut, and let's just say for today I'm going with the nutty professor look, right? So I'm going to try to appear smarter than I actually am, and by doing that, I have to be a little bit nebbish, right? Not nebbish, but a little bit rough. Okay, Cheryl, I believe the following: Sonia, awesome. Chris, Jesse, thanks. Okay, great. You guys are all following each other. Good morning, Jesse. Well, good morning to you too, and a good morning to all of you. And please like, share, and subscribe this post, this feed, if you can. We'll do our best. We're going to keep things positive. We're going to talk a little bit about some controversy, which I don't think is necessarily all that serious and there. I mean, obviously it is, but I think it'll work itself out. Sonia, good morning. Megan, good morning. Karen, good morning. Wow. Awesome. Okay. Alberta Witch Wiggler. I love that name. That is awesome. There's a couple of you guys have awesome names, and I'm No GJ Productions is another one. Christine, if you could, you're on locals, but if you could see the comments on here, I'm posting right now on the feed. Way to go, Christine. You have a lot of love and support from people here who are very happy for you. So yeah, it was a difficult time. There's no question, but you're getting beyond it. So congratulations to you and everybody else who goes through that. I promise things are going to get better. Sonia says I look good. Sonia needs glasses, but I love you, Sonia. You're very sweet. Pam, good morning from Alberta. Pam, you're in Edmonton, if I'm not mistaken, right? Mary, good morning to you too. All right, let's get into some stuff. And let's talk about, moving forward. And, wait, hold on. Wait, 1 second. Hold on. You probably thought I had a surprise for you. That's next time. Next time I'll have a surprise for you. Not today, but there's lots of stuff I'm working on, and once I can figure out how to put a whiteboard in this space with the cameras and all that sort of stuff, things are going to get pretty interesting. So everybody on Instagram, hi. Well, hello to you too. And just post, I don't know, I'm trying to... too many things at once. Joe Rampart, what's up, brother? We got to talk. I haven't spoken to you in weeks, man. Things have been a little bit crazy, but hopefully we can catch up soon. And I was thinking we should maybe do a space sometime soon, just to catch up on a whole bunch of things that are going on that are pretty interesting. So, wait. Where is? Uh oh. I'm having a problem. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do this another way. Today, I'm going to have to, I'll put this, sorry guys. I told you when we started, this is tech support today. Well, today is definitely tech support. All right, so we're going to talk about something that's been all over the interwebs because I think it's important. I think a lot of people are missing some of the important nuance, which is, often the case and no surprise. But it is what it is. So many of us, if you don't know, I'll just give a little bit of the background. Steven Crowder, who was really gracious to have me on during the convoy on my drive back, actually. 45 minutes, as he said, after an airbag went off in my face. From a Tim Hortons in Kemptville, Ontario. Steven Crowder has left the Blaze for who knows what reason. I mean, differences, whatever, contractual, better opportunity, whatever. Everybody has that right. And he went to the DailyWire and he asked for a contract. They sent him, an intention letter, which basically legalese, standard form, breaks things down and allows the whole conversation, right? And Steven Crowder got this in October, and he mulled over it for a couple of months and was a little bit upset with it, and I think I know why. And he then did a video earlier this week, basically tearing apart the contract and what is wrong about it. And so what's happened is now he's done a video, I don't want to say exposed. He didn't say it was DailyWire, by the way. He tried to keep it anonymous and said this is a trend that's going on in conservative media or conservative alternative media, whatever you want to call it. And the Daily Wire, in my opinion, kind of shot themselves in the foot when Jeremy responded right away. And he basically did a breakdown of the contract, and then Steven responded with a conversation that he recorded afterwards with Jeremy, and, they're going back and forth. Okay, so that's kind of setting the stage, right? All right, few things. I think most of us have been involved in some sort of negotiating and contracts and whatever in the past. And I understand, from my perspective, both of them, and they're both having different conversations. And what happens when two groups or two different people think they're having the same conversation, but they're having completely different conversations? What happens? They both don't think they're listening to each other, and then it escalates, right? Because they're trying to get the other person to see things the way they see it, and not addressing, at least from my perspective, the core crux of the argument, which is it's two completely different conversations. All right, so first, people are wondering, why did Steven Crowder react so negatively? And I have a theory. I might be wrong, but, having not only been in similar situations, but I know somebody, a very, very famous professor, some of you know who I know, who was communicating something similar that happened to him in his university a couple of years ago. We were talking about it, right? Here we go again with the camera. Stop. Apple, I'm good. Apple has become the new Windows 95. Am I the only one who just thinks that? Anyways, okay. So this is what I think. This is why I think Steven Crowder reacted negatively, and I'm going to move forward into kind of the details, not too much. But Steven Crowder got this contract, which part of the argument, his argument, which Daily Wire seems to not understand, and it's happening on both sides. His argument was it's not about the money, it's how can you put together such a, I'll use the term vicious or parasitic contract or intent agreement, letter of intent to discuss, whatever you want to call it. And why would Steven react negatively? He would react negatively the same way my friend who's a professor who was treated like a first-year university professor despite being one of the most famous professors in the world. The automatic gut reaction is, you're treating me like an amateur, how dare you, right? And I don't think it's consciously, I think it's subconscious. We all of us have some level of ego. It's what protects us when we protect who we are. And when somebody comes off, sends you a contract, and it's as though, like in the case of my friend who's a professor, he said, they treated me like I was a first year university professor without the plethora of experience and papers that I've written, presentations that I've given, all that sort of stuff, right? So I think that's really first what pissed off Steven Crowder, and I completely understand that. I would probably feel the same. I think most of us would feel the same way. And I'm going to address, DailyWire, how they could avoid this from snowballing. And then after, you sit back, you're a little bit annoyed, and you start to think about things. And if I was in Steven Crowder's position, I would be at home annoyed that I was, you think they would be maybe rolling out the red carpet because you have such a large platform, and now they've just treated me like I'm an amateur. And then what's going to logically pop in your head? Wait, is this how they treat all of their content creators? Is this how they treat, newbies that are trying to make a name for themselves and all that sort of stuff? Probably. And that's going to becomes a negative feedback loop, and it just kind of fuels the anger and the frustration. So I think that's what's happening. That's what happened on Steven Crowder's side. So Steven Crowder is upset that, from his perspective, and I think he's trying to communicate this, how creators are being treated. That's his gripe. Okay. Then Jeremy, who is the CEO of DailyWire, he did a response and explained that they were friends, that he's known Steven for many, many years. You can tell the response. Despite the fact that it's scripted, he's very upset. It's very emotional, and it's what none of us should do. And I kept saying during the Freedom Convoy, by the way, it was very reactionary, right? We would have that all the time during the convoy. Some fake news would write a story about it, and I'd get all these people who complain about fake news but then want to run to fake news tell me we got to respond. And I don't. No, don't. That's not the game. No, don't respond. You don't have to. You have to be reactionary to everything. Like, give me an example aside from being in, I don't know, emergency services or the military, where being reactionary is a strong strategy. And it's only strong within military and emergency services because they're trained to manage themselves in a reactionary state, right? So I think that was the first mistake from Jeremy, was to put a video out. They would have been much better just to ignore it and let things die down after a week or whatever it is, let the speculation grow, and then maybe address it. And I might have changed some of the tactics in it, which I'm going to explain quickly. But one thing's for sure, in his response, what did he do? He dug in his heels. Digging in your heels is never a good strategy. It's never a good strategy for anything. It's what banks do. It's why we hate the banks. It's what governments do. It's why we hate the governments, because there's a lack of wisdom when people dig in their heels. They're unable to utilize observing ego and to step back and to look at what the other side is thinking and put yourselves in their frame so you can understand their perspective. Digging your heels in is the opposite, right? So, but what he did is he went through trying to persuade people factually, the contract, this is, step one, step two, this is why we say that. And, something, whether you watch Scott Adams or you've read Cialdini or other people in the NLP space, what they'll all tell you is nobody has ever been persuaded with data or information, which is something that I keep trying to teach people. And again, during the convoy, but everybody was an expert communicator, right? I spent so much time trying to explain this stuff to people. But nobody has been ever persuaded or influenced by data and information. If you understand that, then you understand how to communicate to people. If you don't, you'll never be able to change anybody's mind. So he basically doubles down and explains, this is why the contract says what it is. I don't know why he's getting upset. We've been friends for so long. He mentioned $50 million many, many times. Steven Crowder didn't say money at any point. And those are the two different conversations. And I'll get to that in a second. But if I were Jeremy from DailyWire, instead of taking out the contract and going through it word by word, that's kind of the bureaucratic tactic, or the lawyer tactic. That will work with lawyers. It won't work with anybody else because, again, they're trained to think that way. Kinda. But anyways, he should have done this. If I were Jeremy, I would have said this, right? I would have said, yes, Stephen, these are the protections for DailyWire. Because much like you, we also have to navigate censorship, but we're not as nimble as an individual creator. Despite the fact that your business is large, you have a lot of employees, you're still significantly more nimble than an organization that has multiple creators, right? But you bring up some good points. And this is how we've been trying to manage the potential for censorship in a way that it doesn't bankrupt our company. But you bring up some very good points. We've done our best to navigate this, but why don't you send us some suggestions? And we'll take into consideration. And maybe you can help us, whether you join and whether we agree and whether we do an agreement with DailyWire or not. Maybe you can help us become a better home for younger creators. And we'll give you all the credit. And we'll say, you know what? It's because of Steven Crowder we were able to make this contract more amicable to new conservatives who are trying to get a voice, right? That's how I would have managed it. And I think that would have prevented additional blowback, right? Basically, when somebody attacks you that way, or you're being perceived as being attacked, okay? Let's be fair to Stephen. The response just should be, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I don't know. Why don't you give me some suggestions? Let's talk about it. Tell me how we can do better. And we'll talk to our lawyers. We'll do our best to find some sort of balance. And hey, by the way, maybe your contract will serve as a template where we can improve upon this, right? That's how I would do it. The only asterisk in all of this is some of you probably many of you won't know. I've had these conversations. I've had conversations with some very, very wealthy people, both in the U.S. and in Canada, about messaging. You guys know I produce podcasts. I help out with an online newspaper and some stuff. I have a number of projects going on. I've had these conversations before. And the problem that I've always had, because much like as they are explaining, I think you got Jeremy from The Quartering, a great YouTube channel, by the way, explains that all of these, alternative conservative media sources are controlled by some of the wealthiest people in business. And that's what I went up against. Some of them are very, very nice people, but they want to put money into a platform so it can grow because they see that you're having an effect. But then they want to start dictating what you should and should not say. And it's like, no. We saw this during the 80s, right? We saw this or 70s and 80s with music bands, right? You have a music band that come out, they would produce an album, it would become super popular, the record industry would get involved, give them a multi-million-dollar deal, and then say, okay, now we need to change it up. You need to have big hair and synthesizers and all that sort of stuff, but that's not what made them popular. And I think you see a lot of this in this space. And it doesn't come from a position of malice. It comes from a position of, we want to speak too. Well, if you want to speak, your role in speaking is not to pay a lot of money and tell other people how to speak. You can turn on your own camera and do your own platform and maybe make it better for everybody, right? So that's the only asterisk, because the way these contracts are done, I know it doesn't come from a position of malice, but, people who are very experienced, successful industrialists live a life where they're in control all the time and they don't have to answer to anybody. Everybody answers to them. And I think it screws with you a little bit. You think all of a sudden, well, I can get into the YouTube space and the media space and I'll be in control there and I'll tell them what to do. It's like, no, you won't. So those are some of the conversations I've had. That's why I'm sympathetic to Steven Crowder, but I'm also sympathetic to the Daily Wire that they're kind of up between a rock and a hard place, that They need to put a lot of money into bringing this creator on their platform. But a big part of the risk is what if he gets deplatformed? But the problem is that's part of his shtick is he gets strikes all the time. So, anyways, I think you can summarize the whole Steven Crowder versus DailyWire issue as pretty simple. Two conversations that are completely different. DailyWire thinks Steven Crowder is talking about money. Steven Crowder is talking about the ethics of the contract that he received, and is this what happens to everybody else? They're having two completely different conversations, and I predict, I'm going to make a prediction here, that at some point, if they haven't started already, they're going to start having that conversation and listening to each other, and you see a good chance of Steven Crowder actually joining the Daily Wire at some point. That might be 5-6 months in the future. Lots of negotiations with lawyers and whatever, because there's too much similarities. There's too much overlap. It's an ideal relationship with the two of them, with those two organizations, and I'm sure they'll work it out. And they just got to get beyond this stage of having two different conversations, yet think they're having the same conversation. So it is what it is. And that brings me on to corruption in Canada, because Steven Crowder gave me just an amazing idea that really helps point things the way I want to point them and address many of the issues that many of you have seen. But let me get your comments first. Okay, I have so many comments coming up. What do you guys have? You're talking about Alberta beef, keto diet. Ramulda, good morning. Good morning to you. Jesse, of course. You guys are barbecuing. Strip loin, medium rare. What are you guys talking about? It's so awesome. Oh, well, at least you're all having fun. And as long as you are, I'm having fun. What's the point you were trying to make? You work for the Telegram. No. Are you afraid of alternative media? Your ramble is senseless. Okay, well, Carol, why don't you go screw yourself and just leave and log off? I don't need to hear you. Bye, Carol. Telegram is an application on phones, so I don't know where. It's also a publication in the United Kingdom, so you might be confused. Why didn't Crowder just not sign the contract and move on? Well, there you go. Pam, that's the Daily Wire perspective, right? That's his point is his point is simple. Why would you even give me this contract? And why would you give anyone else this contract, right? It's parasitic. And the way it's designed, let's assume he violated a number of the terms there. He got strikes, he got deplatformed, all that sort of stuff. That $50 million contract, which is not for Steven Crowder personally, and that's the other thing from framing that would help Steven Crowder to communicate, is it's Steven Crowder Inc. It's the business. It's a $50 million contract between one business and another business. And all he's trying to explain is that $50 million turns to $1.5 million very quickly. And his argument is, well, I'm going to be putting money into my end of the production. I have staff that I got to employ and all that sort of stuff. You're telling me you're waving $50 million in front of my business, but we both know, since a big part of my shtick is I get strikes all the time, it's not $50 million because you're going to be penalizing me repeatedly. And then the Daily Wire would say, yes, but Steven, it's still got to be a business model and it's got to be profitable and all that sort of stuff. To which, if I were Steven Crowder, my response would be, yes, but I'm one creator. You have a multitude of creators that you can leverage off one another. There's always going to be times where one creator is going to have issues and be demonetized, deplatformed, whatever, but the other creators will pick up the slack. So you got to look at your business holistically not just as we only have one client, Steven Crowder. That's what my rebuttal would be if I were in Crowder's position. But anyways, so the reason he's not signing it back is I think he was insulted. I think he felt like Gad Sad. He felt like you're treating me like an amateur. And by the way, is this how you treat the amateurs? I really don't think that's ethical. And that's a good start. That was an opportunity for DailyWire to say, you know what? What specifically? How do we? Okay, give us some ideas. Great. And they could have opened, but instead they kind of Jeremy dug his heels in, which I think was so. Everybody is escalating, which is the nature of how these things are. But it's going to work out. I'm not terribly worried. Everybody's going to be friends eventually. It's just going to take some time. Just a few drops of cup will do. What do you? Pure energy. Oh, you're. You guys are all awesome. All right. So, I want to get into what Steven Crowder has done for all of us. Diverge. Except those strikes lead to driving revenue on alternative platforms and through subs. DailyWire wouldn't really be out money on strikes. Yeah, that's another good rebuttal as well, for sure. But you see why this is a complex conversation? And in DailyWire's defense, they would say, well, why are we doing this publicly? Because look how nuanced this conversation could be. But I think Steven Crowder is just, rightfully or wrongfully, just frustrated and feels that he wants to speak for other small-time creators, because maybe he sees from his perspective, we should have more people in this space, but we don't. What's preventing it? Oh, is it contracts like this that are preventing it? Again, I don't know. But they're going to work it out. Don't worry about it. It's just going to take some time. Okay, well, you're all talking about glucose and fasting, intermittent fasting. By the way, Pam, there's an app called Zero, which is an amazing intermittent fasting app if you're into that. All right, so how did DailyWire, how did Steven Crowder help Canada and Canadian alternative media and everything that we're dealing with massively? Well, I'm going to explain it. All right, so this is something that many of us have been dealing with in Canada in kind of the conservative end of politics, whether you're more libertarian conservative or you're social conservative. All of us have dealt with this for some time, myself included. Now, the problem is different in the U.S. and Canada. In the U.S., with the example of Steven Crowder and DailyWire, that's more simple because you're seeing a corporation that has a set of guidelines and requirements of their creators, and a creator who's fighting with that corporation. Okay, fine. They'll work it out. I'm not terribly worried. It'll be fine. Great. In Canada, it's very different. In Canada, we have the political structure. So in the U.S., much of the narrative comes out of either corporate media or alternative media, right? And because of the nature of the political system, I won't get into it too much, but people were explaining to me this to me when I was in Florida. Because of the nature of the political system there, the media drives the narrative. In Canada, it's the opposite, right? In Canada, it's the political parties that drive the narrative, and the media follows them. Not just because in the case of kind of liberal politics where the corporate media is bought and paid for by the media, but on the conservative side, it comes from donors, large organizations, proxy organizations. They dictate the narrative, and they dictate the narrative for the political parties, for the lobbyists and the political parties, and then it filters down through these alternative media streams. So how it operates in Canada versus the U.S. is entirely different, and that's down to the structure of our political system, actually. That's really what drives it. What a coincidence. I was just on YouTube, and there was a Crowder video about this. I didn't watch it as I was going to something else. Okay, well, I appreciate it. Ben, we keep your streams interesting. Yeah, with all your diet conversations. Listen, you talk about whatever you want. I love you all. That's cool. I get it. All right. So in Canada, you got political parties that are very restrictive and controlled, that work in conjunction with lobbyists and big money, and they dictate all the narratives that get distributed, right? So if there's any sort of grassroots movement that they don't control, then what do? They sabotage it, or they take it over, or they try to divide and conquer. And then if it goes sideways, they fundraise around it. That's the tactic that they use, right? They kill any movement that's got some momentum, any movement that is either grassroots. And you saw that with the Freedom Convoy, right? And the Freedom Convoy had a Facebook page that had over 500,000 disaffected, conservative-minded people who were very frustrated with the Conservative Party for doing nothing, and were fundraising every political party in Canadian history many times over. Many times over. It cost the Liberals $40 million to get Justin Trudeau elected as leader and elected as prime minister. The Freedom Convoy total collected, and that took 4 years. The Freedom Convoy total collected just under $25 million in 3 weeks. So the Freedom Convoy was massively more popular than anybody in the political establishment, the political lobbyists, the proxies, the tools, the bots, everybody, the creators who, are just mouthpieces for the political establishment. And thank God for Steven Crowder, because he comes along and he coins something that is so applicable to Canada, even more applicable to Canada than it is in the United States. And that is Big Con Canada Inc. That's what we're dealing with. That's what the Freedom Convoy was dealing with. That's what all these other grass movements have been dealing with over the many years. Anytime people get together in a community, they have a cause, it's conservative in nature, and they want representatives to address it, but they're doing nothing because all they're doing is cozying up to Liberals at the same time. So what happens? Big Con Canada Inc. is deployed, and a team goes there and either does divide and conquer, sabotages it. Somebody will come, like, I don't know, that Hillier guy will come up and say something stupid, like, oh, this is just like, Hitler. And then the mainstream media gets it, makes it look like a fringe movement, and nobody wants to touch it anymore. The reasonable people who are kind of half paying attention will just see some lunatic saying something stupid and be like, okay, those are just fringe people. But they weren't able to do that with Freedom Convoy, were they? You know why? Because I destroyed them in terms of analytics and the amount of reach that I had with the messaging around the Freedom Convoy and how I leveraged it all. That's why they were unable to do it. That's what they were trying to do the entire time. It's become very evident. And just because, listen, this is not my first rodeo. I've done other stuff in politics and been involved in supporting other people with political causes and asking me advice and giving them some advice. So I've seen this happen many times before. I'm not going to get into political parties and stuff like that, but this is something that my lawyer, Jim, has discussed many times that he's dealt with and many other people have dealt with. That is Big Con Canada Inc. And who is in Big Con Canada Inc.? Well, I wish I had it. I don't have a whiteboard here today, but I am working on a chart that shows the interlinks of all the individuals, the organizations, the money, the proxy organizations, and we're going to name them all. We're going to name all of them so you know exactly who they are. But I can't do I can't just do like a verbal, a vomit, everything, information vomit of all of it, because it's too much. It's too complex. And it's too interconnected. And you need to understand how these organizations work with each other to ensure that you have an opinion that they want you to have. That's how it works. Big Con Canada Inc. Now, yesterday, we saw an example of it. So what happened yesterday? 2 days ago, there was an article written about myself and Honking for Freedom in the Toronto Sun by Tarek Fatah. Those of you who haven't seen it, it's a great article. Thank you, Tarek, for putting it out there. Really appreciate it. It was awesome. So Tarek's article goes out the night before and goes in the newspaper the day after. Now, you know I like Tarek as a friend, so because of that, I was honored. But it's legacy media. That's not really my space. And now I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I'll send a couple of copies of the book to some people in legacy media, see if they want to wake up and start telling the truth at this point. I don't think they will, but it's worth a shot, right? But my bias is never towards legacy media. You saw that in the Freedom Convoy. All I did was alternative media and alternative media strategies, and that's why it became so big. But Big Con Canada Inc. is obsessed with mainstream media. That's who they play to. That's their audience. That's why when Big Con Canada Inc. showed up on the plane into Ottawa, they were chasing after the legacy media, and I had to keep spanking them down. Stop it. You stop, go. As I said to our lawyer, Keith Wilson, at one point, I had to say, shut the fuck up. Go get our money. You're not here to talk and do PR. Our money is locked up. Go get it now. Do your job, after we had signed a retainer, right? Like, that's the sort of chaos we were dealing with these people. Like, who's seen this? A lawyer that just always wants to run to a camera. It's like, no. You're a lawyer. Do legal stuff. Anyways. So, yesterday we saw, as a result of that article that came out in the Toronto Sun, remember, Big Con Canada Inc. is obsessed with mainstream media. That's what they care about. So, they see, oh crap, Dichter and everybody else who was organizing the convoy, minus the couple of people that are captured and being held hostage, they're all talking again, and now they got something in legacy media. Okay, we got to do something. What are we going to do? Okay, so step one, call a creator who is sympathetic and may not understand the nuance of Big Con Canada Inc. and may not really care. I think that's kind of what it is. And what did you see? You saw all of a sudden, the day after my article, Keith Wilson is on with Viva Fry, the convoy lawyer. Okay, well, first, before the commission, he was terminated as the convoy lawyer. He's been replaced. So not the convoy lawyer. He was the JC. And during the convoy, he was the JCCF lawyer. That's why he could lie to us, because he didn't have a retainer with us directly. He had a retainer with the JCCF, and I knew that. I mean, there's only so many fires I could have put out during the convoy itself, right? He intentionally forgot things, it seems, because it seems like everything he said, he may have accidentally forgotten, because so much of it was completely false, right? I'm trying to think. A couple of the examples really stuck out, because I was in the comments. I went in the live chat, and I was just, people are like, oh yeah, this is annoying. I'm like, oh, it's annoying for you? It's so annoying for me. But anyways, and you know, like, one of the things they said was, they didn't even say the publication. They said, a publication snipped you saying, when describing people who have maybe extremist tendencies, as having moths, like attracting moths to a flame, is how Wilson described it in testimony during the commission. That's how he described you. That's how he described you, supporters of the convoy, and people who are in the convoy. He described you as like moths to a flame, as extremists being attracted to the convoy, which I remember we all thought, okay, that's a really that's Justin Trudeau. That's what Justin Trudeau or Doug Ford's point is, right? Why would you say that? So they said that it was, snipped and kind of gave the impression that he was saying that about the convoy participants, and maybe in his favor. Let's be charitable to Keith. Maybe he was just independently trying to refer to a few individual examples and not everybody else, right? Maybe that's what he genuinely was trying to say. But he didn't communicate it very well. And he communicated it so poorly that that same lawyer, who was a government lawyer, used Keith Wilson's words against the Convoy in his concluding statements, right? That's a problem. That really is a problem. We didn't even get into the lies about Bitcoin and various other things. If you want, if you want to watch it, you can watch it. I don't know. For me, it was frustrating knowing that I guess he just got the worst memory ever, which is shocking because one thing I do know, he's got an excellent memory. He's got a he remember. I mean, if you got to be good. You have to have a good memory to be able to conduct that sort of operation on behalf of BigCon Canada Inc. Right? But anyways, it is what it is. So maybe he didn't mean it that way, but it sure as hell didn't come off that way as somebody who was watching it, and many of the other people who were watching it, including the Government of Canada lawyers, Justin Trudeau's lawyers, who used his words against him and against the Convoy in their concluding statements. That's not something you do as a skilled barrister. I'm sorry. We should know better. But anyways, and then he also explains that he was subpoenaed by Justice Rouleau to become a witness. And I remember, wait. Now, I've never seen this subpoena. Maybe there is a subpoena, so I would call on Keith Wilson to publicly show this subpoena from Justice Rouleau, and that would be great. That would help to clarify some things. However, when they realized that I was not going to play ball with their corrupt bullshit narrative about, oh, there's a deal, which there's no deal. There was never a deal. We never even spoke to anybody. The only people who spoke to anybody was Doug Ford. Lockdown Doug's best friend spoke with Keith Wilson and Marazzo. Those are the conversations, right? Okay, fine. But he said, he was subpoenaed. That's why he switched from being a legal representative to a witness. Okay, well, two questions. When they realized I wasn't going to go along with the corruption in their fake narrative, then all of a sudden they went into damage control, according to the board members who are no longer there but were on the board at the time, as they've communicated to me, that he said what we're going to do, that he volunteered to, I guess, recuse himself as a legal representative and to become a witness. And remember, all of us are thinking, why the hell would he do that? What's he thinking? That's highly, highly unusual. Why would any lawyer, and lawyers outside of Freedom Convoy, because I know lots of lawyers, I've asked a few of them, and they're like, well, it's been a while, so we've never had a commission under this act, but that still doesn't excuse the odd behavior. But who knows? They all say there was some sort of strategy, and they needed him for that strategy in some way. We don't know how, who knows. Well, and then he went on the stage and he made statements that were completely inaccurate about Bitcoin, and he did it under parliamentary protection. Now, he did it since publicly, and that's 1,000% defamatory now at this point. So I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do. Many people have asked me, and there's a bunch of things in play. So, and I do have opportunities. There are people who engage in litigation finance, whom I know, who have very, very deep pockets and are not pleased with all this stuff. But, the other thing is when you're in a lawsuit with anybody, you're married to them, and who wants them in your life for that long? But if they keep pushing, then, who knows? We'll see. I'll see what I decide, right? But then what's the next thing that happened, right? Hurt Locker Tom. Hurt Locker Tom comes up, another representative of BigCon Canada Inc., and Hurt Locker Tom releases a victimization video on people are being so divisive on the internet. And I guess that was a dig not only at myself, but at some other people. And so Mr. Battlefield Soldier now has become the SJW victim, right? And talks, oh, people are being so divisive. Listen, you snake, you intentionally tried to destroy the reputation of people, and you fired all the shots, and now you want, oh, let's all come together in kumbaya. No. Listen, I have a lot of love and respect for my my Christian friends, my social conservative Christian friends who are about peace and forgiveness, and I get that. But I come from an eye for an eye. That's how I grown up. And I ain't stopping until I grab that fucking eye and rip it out of the socket. Because, boy, did they make a lot of mistakes. And they keep doing it. They keep escalating. And, okay. So, anyways, the point is what you're seeing is Big Con Canada Inc. is now in damage control. And remember I told you, was it last week, a week and a half ago maybe, that the attacks on me are going to escalate and they're going to continue and they're going to get much worse. So you're going to hear a lot of these whisper campaigns and smears. People are going to send you DMs, oh, don't watch Dichter, don't listen to him, BJ, and all that sort of stuff. They'll call me names and whatever, because that's Big Con Canada Inc. That's one of their strategies. They do the divide and conquer. They go in, take over a movement, and if it goes sideways, fundraise around it. That's the JCCF. And where they told the truckers who remained on the board, oh, no, you can't legally fundraise, which is complete bullshit. That was the complete lie. They could have fundraised anytime they wanted to. But if they did, then they couldn't funnel all, like I suggested. They want to, when it goes sideways, fundraise around it. They want to fundraise to themselves, which is what they've done. So they've fundraised $5 million for the truckers and for the legal defense. And myself, Chris Guerra, Joe Jensen, Bridget, Chad, I'm missing some other people, and I apologize to everybody. None of us, the truckers, the organizers, none of us are getting a dime. They're just keeping it and putting it in their pocket. So if they want to, come together and end the divisiveness, I've got an idea. I'll send you the wiring instructions for my lawyer to his escrow account, and you can transfer a couple of $1 million over to the rest of us, so our legal defense will be covered. And then whatever remains at the end, all that money should be going back to the truckers who were there, who were out of pocket, who had out of pocket for legal expenses and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I know of two, just coincidence, from a lawyer who's a friend of another lawyer, of a couple of people that were being defended, I believe, by JCCF, who walked away, realized it's a clown show, and they're paying for their own legal expenses to be represented. And because of client-attorney privilege, I can't explain who those people are, but there's two of them. And two that I know of, and I'm sure there's more. So if they want to end the divisiveness, how about you transfer that money you raised for the legal defense? You'll send it to my lawyer's escrow. And this is the other lesson in politics and Big Con Inc. and how it all works. And it's really quite disgusting. And I'll just backtrack this by, I've been quite privileged in my life. I was adopted to a very good home. I lived in a very good neighborhood. We were the poorest family amongst some of the wealthiest families in the world. So I've been around people with lots of money. I've been in some of the largest homes in the world. And I've seen that some people who have an ungodly amount of money are often not happy, and that's maybe why I don't have the same allure to it. I don't really care. I'm kind of a minimalist, right? And I always remember when I was younger, when I was first working, one of the board of directors took a liking to me for a company that I worked for, and he was an older gentleman, and he was worth I don't know how many billions of dollars, but he liked me. I was young in an industry where there's not many young people, and he said to me, unfortunately. He said, fortunately, I've been very, very successful in my life. And it was a struggle in the beginning, but myself and my kids, my family are really probably never going to have to worry about money. And we can give back and we can do, charities and donations and all that sort of stuff. He said, but you know what? He said, I'm going to give you some life advice. he said, of everything that I've done in my life and have accomplished, the only thing that matters to me is my daughter is getting married next week, and I'm going to have grandchildren. Because, he said, unfortunately, it's weird. People think about money, and many people obsess about money, but it's not until you get like this level, a certain level of wealth, that you understand it's all meaningless. It's all useless, right? It doesn't make your life better. That is the stark opposite of people in politics who are some of the dumbest mofos you'll ever meet. And they're obsessed with money. And you know you're at a political event when you go into, I don't know, the Albany Club or whatever, conservative event, whatever, and the wealthiest person walks in and everybody loses their minds and starts to figure out, oh, how can I talk to him and whatever, because they have this, I don't know, this peasant mentality that they obsess over money, and the smartest person in the room is always the wealthiest person. That's how politics works. And you wonder why everything's so screwed up. It's really kind of sad. So, and that is the mindset of Big Con Canada Inc. And that's why they were obsessed with the money that wasn't theirs. That money was for the convoy and for the truckers. It didn't belong to them. But they wouldn't shut up about the damn money. They wouldn't stop. And that's why I know the attacks are going to escalate on me, because I'm here speaking on behalf of the rest of us who are being screwed and have been screwed by Big Con Canada Inc. since the convoy, who've now raised all this money exploiting the goodwill of all of you, thinking that money is going to go to defend us, and it's not. They're keeping it in their back pockets. They have a couple of people that they're helping, that they captured, that they've threatened repeatedly, and who are playing by the rules because they're very concerned about criminal charges, and I really sympathize with them, but they need to show some strength. Life ain't easy. Just going along to get along, it never ends well. And so the attacks are going to escalate on me because I'm demanding that they hand over, they wire the money that they raised on behalf of the truckers, which was, I think, and it's not going to the truckers, or it's not going to the Freedom Convoy. And, you know, when Give, Send, Go did that, Ron DeSantis called that criminal fraud, right? That's how he described that. So they're on very, very careful, thin ice right now. And I'm being very nice and I'm being very patient. So they can complain and do the victim narrative as much as they want and try to stage a video. At the end of the day, they're behaving like whores and thieves. And they're screwing everybody else who put all this energy towards making the Freedom Convoy happen. And it's really quite sad and pathetic. But there you go. Tao, the PPC was sending me multiple fundraising emails day over Christmas, and I sent an email back saying not to do the same conduct as the LPC. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into the political parties, but it's all Big Con Canada Inc. All of it. All of it. And I'll map it out over time and explain it. That's why they were attacking me too, because I'm sorry. I don't do groups. I do the truth. I care about the truth and being honest with you. That's about it. That's really all that matters. So today is the first day of Big Con Canada Inc. There is a domain registered, bigconcanada.com and bigconcanada.ca, that will be pointing to different websites over time. And I'll tell you when, and I'll encourage you to check that domain when it's relevant. And hopefully the people who are screwing the rest of us will do the right thing, because guess what? This is never going to stop. And from what I understand, two people were arrested from that organization. They better not be using funds raised for the convoy for their legal defense, or they might have a real problem, right? But you know, all of this could be worked out, and if they just played ball and did what they said they did, despite all the chaos that they caused, we can move forward and go our separate ways and fight certification of this legal challenge. But think about it this way. If you're in their position and your hustle is all about raising donations, is it in your interest to stop the certification of this class action suit? Or is it in your interest to allow it to get certified so the perpetual grift of sucking all of you for donations can go on indefinitely? Which do you think they're going to do? Remember, these are all politicians. And there's I don't need to convince you of the buggy moral code of politicians just in general. We all know that, right? Anyways, this is all good news because thank God for Steven Crowder putting a point on this issue that I've been trying to figure out, this issue of Big Con Canada Inc. He'll solve it with DailyWire in the United States. I'm not worried about it. I'm sure they're all going to come together because, again, the nature of the problem is completely different than Canada, right? And in our system, it's dictated by the slime in politics. And then they use all of these platforms to manipulate you into regurgitating their talking points. So you know what the opposite of Big Con Canada Inc. is? There is an opposite, and this is the additional bright light. The opposite to Big Con Canada Inc. is this. Honking for Freedom. This is all the good stories that came out of it. This is all the positive experiences about love and freedom, and this is not going away anytime soon. This is going to get much stronger despite their desperation to pull out the victim flag like a bunch of SJWs. I'm not doing that over here. You're not doing that, and I hope none of you do that. I hope all of you stay strong. You know, like a soldier's supposed to be. I couldn't believe it. Ooh, divisiveness. Yeah, you screwed everybody, and we're all pissed. Anyways, but I know over the past week or so, I've heard about now 3 people that this book has changed their minds. I would say three people like in, personal circles. I don't know how many more people who I don't know who've bought the book that it's had an effect on. But just within my circles, it's changed the minds of 3 people. So I encourage you, please help get that word out. I'm going to be talking a lot about Honking for Freedom throughout 2023. And if all goes well, tomorrow I start on chapter 1 of the audiobook. That's going to take some time. So don't anticipate that coming anytime soon. It'll come eventually. But, and yes, I will be the one who's narrating the audiobook. So you have Big Con Canada Inc., who flew in and destroyed the Freedom Convoy, or you've got this, right? Which is the one that gave you a better sense of love and belonging in February of 2022, right? Compare. A friend of mine. She was watching the stream, and she says to me, she saw something online when Marazzo, his first step. Now he's doing the victim. So the first step was he tried to smear me with the R word, which was total bait, and they took the bait because I wanted to show that text message of Miranda saying exactly that about Eva, and all of a sudden then they stopped. So that strategy didn't work. The attacking me strategy doesn't work. So now it's we're a victim. Yeah, you're the victim. So you got all. Anyways, whatever. It is what it is. They're just like Trudeau and Friedland. They're the exact same thing. Trudeau and Friedland hold all the power, yet play the victim card, right? Well, in this scenario, they've sucked up all of your donations on behalf of the truckers, and they're squatting on it, and they have all the legal control and counsel that they need, connections to the entire Big Con Canada Inc. network to smear everybody, but they're playing the victim card. They're exactly the same thing. It's not about left and right. It's just about the duplicitousness of people in the political class and the rest of us. Is that populism? I don't know. That's just being a regular dude. I have no idea. So anyways, Tao, it's your message to this friend of mine. She said she saw the attack back and forth, and she says to me, she's not from Canada originally, and she says, Tom Mozzarella looks like he's on menopause. Tom Mozzarella. I'm sure he heard that his whole life. I prefer Hurt Locker Tom. Mr. Battlefield Soldier. Has never been out of the country. Was working in a computer office his entire life. What a bullshit artist. Anyways, it is what it is. Oh, and then he's like, when I finally called him out in a Twitter Spaces, you've had a bug up your ass for 6 months. I'm like, I haven't mentioned your name until that conversation. Until that conversation, not one time. Because once again, he struggles, like many of them, struggle with the truth. It's because all they do is lie to one another and lie to all of you. And they utilize Con Inc. and all the Con Inc. proxies, which is fascinating. Because I and others have been sitting back since the Freedom Convoy and watching these proxy organizations form and finding out who is funneling money into those proxy organizations and how much money is going into those proxy organizations. And it's absolutely fascinating. Big Con Canada Inc. That's what we're going to be talking a lot about this year. No, Tao, because that's part of Big Con Canada Inc. I mean, I love him personally, but he works for Big Con, an element of Big Con Canada Inc. And also, this is what keeps Trudeau in power, right? This is what keeps the Liberals in power, is because they want to have, we want to have conservatism, but it has to be the way they want, and it can't be what you want, and it can't be your opinions. It has to be their opinions. And if not, you're not in the club. And then they go forward with these stupid strategies into the elections, trying to mimic the Liberals, and then they lose the election. So, perfect example, Pierre Poilievre. Pierre, when he ran for leadership, ran as a conservative. How is Pierre now? Is he a conservative? He's behaving more like a liberal. And they're utilizing the exact same strategy that they did in the last two elections. And if we don't get Pierre Poilievre to wake up, he's going to lose yet another election for the Conservatives. Because this is what they do every time. This ain't my first rodeo. I've been around a little bit, as many of you have, and we need to prevent that from happening. And hopefully, Pierre will wake up and show some strength and double down on his conservative policies running up for leader and not have a lunatic woke supremacist as his deputy leader. Like, that destroys all credibility. When you have that Ganef as your deputy leader who lobbied for Katie Telford's firm, by the way, she worked for Katie Telford's firm, Justin Trudeau's chief of staff. That's the deputy leader of the Conservative Party. And she's a rookie. How do you put that as deputy leader? Because this is all just smoke and mirrors. So hopefully they will wise up, maybe take some of my advice and take some advice of some others, and we can get beyond the blackface regime. But with the current strategy, which they're trying to do for the third time in a row, which is all about money, by the way, if they continue to do it, we're going to be stuck with blackface one more time. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say about politics. But guess what? We'll figure something out. We'll figure out a way to communicate to them. Things will work out over time. Like I said, I'm very optimistic over the future, but there's going to be bumps in the road that we're going to have to address. And these are some of the bumps in the road. But if we maintain the positive frame and we don't let the noise bother us so much, then we get beyond it. We figure out solutions to all of this, and we move forward, right? So hopefully the Ganefs at the JCC, Ganef means thief, by the way, in Yiddish. The Ganefs at the JCCF will start transferring some money to my council, so my council can, who's representing other members of the Freedom Corp, or former members, and we can go and fight the certification, and everybody will be happy, right? Or they can do what Jeremy at the DailyWire did, and this is not a criticism of Jeremy, I know he was upset, but dig their heels in, and they'll make things so much worse for them. So much. It's going to get really difficult and really tough for them if they don't turn the course. Um, Libby, John Carpe's on a southwestern Ontario tour meet and greet. Why the hell's he a meet and greet? January 27th, private brunch. Oh, should I go there? Waterloo and Kitchener. Maybe I should talk to the Crown that's overseeing his case. I know I have some very interesting emails that the Crown would like to see. Most likely the surveillance he did, trying to raise money for his bail and legal fees. You know, he's such a chazer. He really is. And, leading up to all of this, the commission, I tried, and I had somebody who you all know, quite famous, that was willing to reach out to them and to get them to come on board and work together. This is back in May, I think, April or May. And I soon realized that wasn't going to happen. And some other very prominent people explained to me that they're just lunatics. You're not going to get anywhere with them. They're just crazy, to the point that they'll just shoot themselves in their own foot. I hope they wake up. No, Pierre feels liberal to me. No, I don't think he's. I think what Pierre is he's a fiscal conservative. He's an economics guy, and doesn't want to touch social issues. That's just who he is. And for some people, I get it. Depending on if you're coming from the very social conservative, religious conservative frame, then I can understand you seeing somebody who's a fiscal conservative and saying, "Oh, you're kind of a liberal." I like the word libertarian, right? Like, I'm more on the, let people make their own mistakes. And I tell my social conservative friends, and some of them agree with me, which is, you know what they say, love the sinner, hate the sin. Well, that's what that is, right? Anyways, okay, I have a meeting in 3 minutes, and I'm going to be late. So I'm going to have to shut everything off now. I love you all. Sorry, I don't mean to cut it off short, but hopefully we've now gotten Big Con Canada Inc. on your radar, and please share that with everybody else. And this whole network of Big Con Canada Inc., it'll probably take about 6 months, but you'll understand all the pieces and how this works over time. You'll have enough information, you'll be able to write a book about it. Dr. G, what's up, brother? Good to see you. I got to run. Cheryl, I love you. Jesse, everybody else who's in the chat, I love you too. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for for helping each other with your diets. I appreciate it. And I got to run. I have a meeting with somebody in the U.S., and I'm going to be late. So I'll talk to you soon. Peace, love, unity, and freedom. And those who wave the victim flag, that is your Big Con Canada Inc. Speaking and trying to manipulate you. And don't let them manipulate you. Okay, gotta run.